Welcome back, everybody. Friday, March 3rd. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, here to talk to you about the latest news from Ukraine. As always, let me get the TikTokers going first, and then we will wait probably about 2 minutes. My eye is itching. 2 minutes for folks to arrive, because as you know, it takes a couple of minutes for folks to join us after they get the notification. In the meantime, introduce yourselves if you would. Say where you're from. It's always fun to see kind of where folks are from all over the world. So there, Friday. Woo! Very exciting. Rainy day in DC. We're finally getting wintry weather now that it's March, which is insane. But what do you do? Anyway, hey, TikTokers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, hello, DC. Texas, Czech Republic, Australia. Oh, how's everybody doing? Any exciting week? I have nothing exciting. I've got to make weekend plans one of these days. Taiwan. Hey, Griffin. Don't think we've seen a lot of people from Taiwan before. Excellent. And Yasu, back to you. What else we got? Yeah, we'll go another, as always, we'll wait maybe another minute or so just to let folks filter in, and then I will get rolling. So we'll just do our hellos first, where everybody's from. Ontario, BC, always a lot of Canadians. Love you guys. Sim Privit, Mikola. I'm going to guess Mikola, Ukraine is what that says probably. Hello. Sim. Now, what is Sim? I'm going to check my translate. Privit, I know. Sim should be an obvious one. Hello. Oh, everyone. Sim is everybody. Okay. Nice to meet you, Mikola. Or how's everybody doing? All right. Well, another half minute, and I think we're there. It may be slow being Friday. We have slower people checking in. Slower. Maybe not slower people checking in. Fewer people checking in. I shouldn't have said slower people checking in. That's possible too. It's a Friday. Who knows? All right, guys. I will get rolling. Welcome. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. This is my nightly show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Been doing this since the war started over a year ago, and it's been good. We've had a good audience and I think it's been very educational and actually fun in its own kind of twisted way, just because I think we've got a really nice community here. So it's been fun to sort of see the same people all the time. Let's put it that way, even though war is not fun. The way this works, thank you, Aggie, is on TikTok. You can submit questions via the Q&A link that is in my profile. Thank you, Pernell and Aggie, both for those. On YouTube and everywhere else, on my laptop over here, you can submit all the questions at the bottom in the comment box. Thank you, Benji, over on TikTok. I've got TikTok on my iPad over here, and then I've got YouTube and everybody else on my laptop over here. Thank you, Pernell and Paul LWC. The other thing is, since I do this for free, and I've been doing it full-time since the war broke out, I do appreciate your guys' gifts, because your guys' gifts quite literally help me pay the bills and help me keep going. So thank you for that. I will always try to do a shout out when I see the gifts on TikTok, and the same thing with the super chat, super stickers, and super chat questions. I will always prioritize those first. All right, let's get rolling. Quick housekeeping, whatever you want to call it. Thank you, Nancy, for the galaxy. Tomorrow morning, I will be having a special coffee talk, as I call it, with the TikTok paid subscribers. TikTok has a subscription service that you can basically pay to help support the creators. You'll notice the folks that have SNN next to their name with kind of a reddish brown. Those are the supporters. If you guys want to subscribe, feel free. We will be meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time US on TikTok. Thank you, Bonnie, for the rose. At 10 a.m. Eastern Time on TikTok, and that will only be for our folks. Other people won't be able to join in, and we just hang out. It's been a very fun Saturday morning hangout. For the Discord folks, I have a Discord as well. Discord.aravosis.com. The $25 and up supporters on Discord, we will have a monthly meeting with you folks Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time US. So that's TikTok tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Discord Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Let's get rolling. So a bit of non-Ukraine news, but it was a big story today, so it's worth mentioning. President Biden was diagnosed with basal cell carcinoma, which is a kind of skin cancer, but from what I'm reading, as skin cancer goes, it's a good one. He's not going to need any more follow-up. They removed it. It was on his chest. Apparently, it most commonly comes from sunlight, and it's the most common skin cancer you can get. And I was just watching on the news. There's no follow-up at all necessary. So they removed it. That's all they need. So good to hear as far as that goes. British military expert Michael Clark, I was just literally before the show started, I saw something by him on Twitter, and I thought it was worth bringing up. He was comparing the Russian casualties to the Ukrainian casualties in the war. And what was interesting about this is that, now, first of all, casualty, important word here. In regular English, we think of casualty meaning death, right? How many casualties were there? In military terms, and I don't know what the history is of this, but in military terms, when they say casualty, they mean wounded or killed, or I should say wounded and killed combined. So if there's 1,000 casualties, it could be 999 wounded and one dead. It could be the opposite, right? So always beware of that when everybody uses the word casualty. Make sure you know what they mean. Thank you, Nurse Boyer. Now, what Michael Clark, who's military expert on Sky News, just said on Twitter right now, listen to this. Comparing Ukrainian and Russian casualties, meaning deaths and injuries in the war. Ukrainian casualties, where there are a lot, he says Ukrainian casualties, there are a lot more wounded than dead. So when you look at the Ukrainian casualties, you've got a lot of wounded and some dead. He puts the number at around 100,000 now for Ukraine, okay? He says for Russia, the number now is closer to 200, well over 200,000 injured and dead. So Ukraine's 100,000 injured and dead. Russia is 200,000 injured and dead. But an interesting additional point he made, that Russians have a much higher proportion of dead. In other words, the Russians are seeing a lot more. In other words, if a Russian soldier is going to get injured, he's going to die much more likely than a Ukrainian soldier would. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, including the fact that the Russians didn't have enough medical equipment or medical personnel when the war started. We knew that. The weather's not been great. It's been winter and cold, and people die more easily, obviously, when it's cold. The Russians have not provided their troops with sleeping bags. They've not provided them with boots, with any of the kind of clothing they need for the winter. So there's been a lot of reasons, but in general, thank you, Boost Fight, the lesson to be taken here is that a lot of the Russian troops who died didn't need to die. And I don't mean didn't need to die as in we didn't have to have this war. I mean didn't need to die as in had they been in any other military, they probably would have been saved. Or at least in the Ukrainian military, they would have been saved. But because Russia's so bad at this, Russia just let them die. Anyway, let's talk about Bakhmut a little bit, because Bakhmut is the topic that's sort of been on everybody's mind. Bakhmut is a Ukrainian city in eastern Ukraine that has been the location of the most fighting of the last few months, okay? Bakhmut is all the way over here, right here where my finger is, okay? So east of Kramatorsk, southwest of Severodonetsk. Just to remind you all, Russia controls pretty much this area of Ukraine, about 18%, 17%. So Bakhmut is right on the border between Russian-occupied Ukraine and free Ukraine, okay? So there's been thank you, Carlos, for that. There's been a lot of discussion as to what's going to be happening in Bakhmut, whether the Ukrainians are going to be eventually losing it to the Russians. A lot of us think they will eventually lose it to the Russians. There's also been a lot of talk. I've been talking about it every night, so I don't want to summarize everything. But the main point here is that Bakhmut is not a strategically important city. The Russians seem to be going after it because they've already spent so many lives, wasted so many lives trying to take this town, that they're just throwing more and more and more because they need some victory, which also makes me think that Putin himself probably said it. I don't care how many die, take the damn town. Because the Russians have been losing so much in the last several months. The Ukrainians have had so many victories of getting not anything in the last couple of weeks. Thank you, Jay Ticker, for the goggles there. But remember how in the fall there was that big Ukrainian onslaught in the northeast where they were moving from Kharkiv down. There have been so many examples of the Ukrainians just advancing, almost miraculously. The Russians have not had that since the beginning of the war. So the thinking is that basically Putin, thank you, Al, wants this victory in Bakhmut, even though it doesn't matter, because they're going to tell their people, the Russian people, oh my God, This is amazing. We won Bakhmut, even though it's a town of 70,000 people that right now has about 5,000 people. Now, the Russians blew up a key bridge going into Bakhmut. That is not good for the Ukrainians because it's a bridge the Ukrainians would be using to bring in more supplies. It also is a bridge the Ukrainians would be using to leave if they need to leave, right? If they need to get out. The alternative for the Ukrainians is basically going off road or using roads that are dirt roads, which is not really good because we're now entering springtime in Ukraine where the frost and everything is melting, right? So the roads are getting muddy. It's hard to get through in cars. It's hard to get through in tanks and heavy vehicles. So blowing up this bridge into town is a big deal. It's not good for the Ukrainians. Little more here. The Ukrainian military admits that withdrawal from Bakhmut is on the table. They admitted that today, but only if absolutely necessary. So the Ukrainians are still not giving up. Michael Clark, who I told you before is a defense expert on Sky News, he weighed in today on will the Russians capture Bakhmut. Let me just read you the quote from Sky News of what they said. Wagner mercenary group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin's assertion that Russian forces have almost taken Bakhmut is probably true, Clark says. However, he says, the capture of the town will not matter strategically. Instead, it would be a symbolic victory for Russia after months of little battlefield success. So, that's good. Again, it's not, it's just not strategically important, guys. I'm sorry. I know some of you are still arguing it is. Pretty much every military expert says it doesn't matter. What does help with Bakhmut is it's always good to have your enemy waste time going after things that don't matter, right? The idea is if the Ukrainians pull out of Bakhmut, then the Russians will then move their troops somewhere that maybe is strategically more significant, right? So, there is that downside. Let me tell you really quick, we've got a Discord community just to tell you guys, because we've got a new thing that we're auctioning off today. Discord's a very cool community where folks get together, and it's just sort of like a chat community in a way. We've got politics, we've got sports, our pets, food. I mean, you kind of name it. And the one of the cool things we do is we have auctions, and the auctions are nice because it's a nice way to support my work, but also half of the money from the auction we channel back into Ukraine. And we've helped buy drones, we've helped get supplies for regular citizens, food, transportation, you name it. Well, 3 things. Well, we just auctioned off the sweatshirt today. I've got more sweatshirts in the future, but we've got the actual Zelensky sweatshirts, the sweatshirts that Zelensky buys. We found the same company in Ukraine and imported them from Ukraine, but somebody just won one today. So we're not auctioning those yet. What we do have auctioning though is I've got 2 of the Azov style bracelets left. This is one of them. These are the really cool bracelets the Ukrainian government made from the last batch of steel from the Azov style steel plant where 2,000 Ukrainian troops were fighting off 14,000 Russians for several months. They're really cool. It's made from the steel. It's got the Ukrainian trident on it. You can see the Ukrainian trident. And this batch is really neat because this was, the Ukrainians had taken the steel and they did a display, an art display in downtown Kyiv to honor the troops. And they were trying to think, what could we do with the steel? And they said, let's make more bracelets. So these bracelets are made from an art, from this plant. It's from the steel plant, but it was on display in Kyiv, the capital first. So really cool. The other thing, and I mentioned to you guys last week, and I went and looked for it and I found it. I pulled up, because this is still in the theme of freedom. We are in the freedom theme and the beating Russia theme. I went and found one of my pieces of the Berlin Wall that I broke off in 1989 in December. These are auctions. These are all auctions on the Discord. Long story short, I don't need to sort of go through all of it, but the top part is still paint, which is nice. That top little dark spot is paint because it's hard to get them. I was on a congressional delegation. I was working in the U.S. Senate at the time, and we were working on arms control. And we were doing arms control trip to Vienna, to Paris, and then to Berlin. And in Berlin, of course, back then it was West Berlin because Berlin was chopped up into 4 quarters, U.S., U.K., France, and Russia at post-World War II. Berlin itself was in the middle of East Germany, which was also kind of crazy, right? You had West Berlin was free, but it was in the middle of East Germany. So any case, we got there early December of 1989. It was 3 weeks after the wall came down, basically, the Berlin Wall. Now, the wall was still up, but it metaphorically came down. The East German government said they finally were going to let German citizens cross to the West if they wanted to. So in addition, what everybody did was everybody went to the wall with pickaxes and started chipping away at the wall. Long story short, I've got the whole explanation on my Discord, but I was able to get some really cool stuff. I've got this whole cool piece of rebar of steel from the Berlin Wall that's like 2 feet large, but I also was able to chop off several pieces, and this is one of the pieces I chopped off. Anyway, bottom line, it's real. I've got more proof of the provenance. I've even got the newspaper I wrapped it up in from the time. I've got pictures of me at the wall chipping it off. Anyway, but I think it's cool. That's the kind of stuff I like, So those are the kind of things you can find at our Discord. Please do go check it out. Discord.aravosis.com. And you can find all of these links in my profile on TikTok. You can find all of these links via aravosis.com at the bottom of the screen. All right, let's keep going, guys. So Scholz, the premier of Germany, the chancellor, is meeting with Biden today, or did meet with Biden today. Thank you, Bonnie, for that. Do keep the gifts coming on YouTube and TikTok. I appreciate that, guys. Was meeting with Biden today. Biden announced new aid for Ukraine, mostly ammunition, but also a type of vehicle that can lay down bridges. Now, the idea behind this, thank you, El, is for the Ukrainian offensive coming up in the spring. We believe the spring, right? And the idea is, you're trying to cross rivers and things, or trying to cross muddy ways or whatever, and you lay a bridge down. So this is a vehicle that will help them for their offensive in the spring. The Financial Times reports, now this was kind of interesting, actually. This was I have a good Germany story. Sometimes, as you know, we bash Germany on this show. This was a very good Germany story. Very good Germany. So the Financial Times is reporting that the Germans, and actually we talked about this a few weeks ago as a possibility, and now the Germans have finally officially asked about it. The Germans have asked Switzerland to sell them, the Germans, 96 of the Swiss tanks that the Swiss had previously bought from Germany. Kind of confusing. So Switzerland years ago buys lots of tanks from Germany, Leopard 2 tanks. These are the same tanks, right, that we all want to give Ukraine. Switzerland determines 96 of the tanks they don't need anymore, right? So they've got them in storage. They're decommissioning them. The Germans are saying, well, okay, Switzerland, look, they were our tanks to start with. We sold them to you. If you don't need them anymore and you're just going to destroy them, can we buy them back from you? Well, Germany has already said we would not give the tanks to Ukraine because Switzerland has this very severe policy of neutrality, where basically they're refusing to even let other countries give Swiss ammunition and things like this to Ukraine. So the Germans are saying, look, even though they're our tanks that we sold you and we made them, if we buy them back, we will not give them to Ukraine. But the Germans might use them to basically refill the stocks of countries who give their tanks to Ukraine. So in other words, Germany is giving, what did we say, maybe 28 tanks or something, or I forget how many Leopards, more than that now, that Germany's giving. Germany could use these tanks to refill its stocks. But also, if you've got other European countries that are worried that maybe they don't have enough tanks to spare, those European countries could give Ukraine their tanks. And then Germany could step in and say, we will sell you, or give you these additional tanks to take its place. The question becomes whether Switzerland is okay with that, or whether Switzerland says, well, it's kind of the same thing. You're still, using our tanks to help Ukraine. Let's see. Hopefully the Swiss will not be so uptight about it, but I will give Germany major kudos for trying to do this. But again, let's see what the Swiss actually do. Ukraine is set to receive, this was also Financial Times today, Ukraine is set to receive artillery ammunition within weeks from the European Union. The good news is, because Ukraine has been running low on artillery, they're using a lot. The good news is that apparently, thank you, Dee, for the gift there on TikTok. Apparently, the ammunition should be arriving in a matter of days or weeks. They said it's not months, which is good. It'll be days or weeks. McChicken, if you meant to put a question there, feel free to write a question in a separate comment, because sometimes when I see that, it means you guys were thinking of asking a question and it got screwed up. So feel free to write separately a question if you like. As far as artillery, though, Ukraine is asking the EU for 250,000 artillery shells a month. That is a hell of a lot. It's a lot more. It's actually a lot more than Ukraine's using right now, but it's a lot more than Europe can provide. I don't know that anybody can provide that at this point. But there you go. McChicken is asking about something I don't know. Thoughts on Project Willow? I don't know what Project Willow is. What is Project Willow? I don't know. If somebody you want to tell us what Project Willow is, I have no idea what that is. Feel free to write more about it, and if I know anything about it, I'm happy to weigh in. But by name, it doesn't mean anything to me. Nearly 10,000 Russian soldiers. This was good. So Ukraine announced today that nearly 10,000 Russian soldiers have already surrendered via their I Want to Live hotline. Okay. The I Want to Live hotline is a couple different, Ukraine set it up a couple different ways. I think mostly on Telegram, which kind of makes sense. Because it's a social media app the Russians use a lot, and basically it literally is called the I Want to Live hotline. And the idea is if the Russian troops call or can signal on social media, they can write a message, they will get instructions on how they can surrender, which is interesting. Oh, Willow, Alaska. Oh, I have no idea. They will tell them how to surrender. And what the Ukrainians are saying is 10,000 Russian soldiers have already surrendered using the hotline, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm not up on oil projects in Alaska. Sorry. I mean, vaguely heard of Willow. Isn't Willow? No, that's not Willow. Willow's not where Palin is from, is it? I forgot. I think she's from Willow, isn't she? No. She's from one of the other W's. I'm forgetting now. In Southeast. Where is she from again? I thought maybe it is Willow. In any case, don't know. Massive and decades-long oil drilling venture on Alaska's North Slope that state laws makers say will create jobs and boost. Oh, so it's Anwar and everything else. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not anti-development, but I'd love like an honest opinion from somebody in the middle. You know what I mean? About what's the chances of finding oil at the same? Oh, she's Wasilla. Thank you. You're right. She was Wasilla. What's the chances of finding oil versus what's the true environmental impact? Because sometimes I feel like in a lot of these issues, the oil people really want to drill no matter what, and the environmental people don't want you to touch anything. And I would tend to be more in the middle. Although I'm pro-environment, but I just don't know enough about it. Sorry. The Patreon. I was going to tell you really quick on Patreon. I also have a Patreon set up. Thank you, Louie. Patreon is a really neat way to be able to help creators by basically going and giving them a monthly contribution. It's just a nice way of $5, $10, $25 a month, and it just automatically renews until you cancel it. And as a creator, it's nice because you can look and know, I'm getting $1,000 a month or whatever it is. Thank you, Annie, for the gift. It just gives you a little more regularity to the money that's coming in, so you can pay the bills. And as I said, I do this full time. I do this for free. Been doing it since the war broke out, and literally pay my bills with you guys. So thank you very much for your help. I can hear the neighbor's dog in the hall, and my dog is going to hear it and go bonkers sometime soon. Oh no, we're going to play afterwards. But thank you for that. If she hears it now, it's going to be screaming bloody murder. Hopefully she doesn't. In any case, Patreon, it's patreon.com/Aravosis. So please do use it if you can. You can find the links there. Oh, and Patreon, if you become a $5 or more Patreon subscriber, you do get access to certain things on our Discord, such as the VIP auction. There's a regular auction, but there's also a VIP auction. Like, for example, right now, the Berlin Wall piece, I am only putting up in the VIP auction so that it gives the folks who are financially supporting the Discord a little bit of extra credit. But anyway, go check it out if you can. You can find all of the links on TikTok via my profile, and you guys via aravosis.com. All right, a little bit more news here. Lavrov, this was kind of funny in a self-referential way. The Russian foreign minister was in New Delhi today and was speaking to an audience about the war. And he said, this is what he said: the war, which we are trying to stop, right? The Russians, which we are trying to stop, was launched against us using Ukraine. In other words, Ukraine like attacked Russia or something. The entire audience started laughing. It was great. He stopped a second. I mean, it was very good. But just a nice little moment. It was nice to see it in India as well, that basically the audience wasn't putting up with any BS. Quick little story on China via Sky News that the European Union will place sanctions on China if it arms Russia in Ukraine. This was according to a senior European Union official. So, good news. We still don't have any word from China, but we're hoping that this kind of increasing pressure on China will eventually make it so that China for sure does not give Russia any lethal weapons. Sky News, this was a really weird story. I've only got two more stories. Both of them are weird. One was on Sky News as well. A senior researcher who helped create the Russian COVID vaccine has been murdered. Now, you all know how things go in Russia with people getting murdered. A lot of people seem to get murdered in government officials, basically in the government level, and it seems awfully suspicious. I mean, usually they get thrown off balconies, so then you really know it's suspicious. In this case, the guy, Andrei Bodikov, was 47 years old, was strangled to death with a belt. Thank you, Cheryl Moore, for that. Very nice of you. Was strangled to death with a belt in his apartment. A 29-year-old man has pled guilty to murder, and the investigators believe the murder to have been carried out following a domestic dispute. I mean, okay, right? You're having a domestic dispute. You get so mad you want to kill somebody, so you pick up your belt and put it around their neck. And then, of course, with the belt, right, a guy's belt, you've got the loop. So you can't just do this. You've got to, right, I don't think this is enough with a belt. Maybe it is. You'd probably have to loop it. I mean, really? Really? It's like, okay, whatever. I mean, lots of possibilities are going through my head, but it just seems a little bit weird. It could be a little kinky too. Yeah, it's possible. But it also could be, the guy literally discovered the Russian COVID vaccine, a vaccine that doesn't work very well. He easily could have been killed by the government as well, because this is Russia. Final story, and I'll show you a picture of this. A Russian politician is appearing in court next week, facing accusations that he discredited the Russian armed forces. And I'm going to show you this. He discredited the Russian armed forces because he watched Vladimir Putin's speech and on TV and recorded him. It took a picture of himself watching the speech and then posted his picture on Russian social media. Okay. The picture was he watched Putin's speech with spaghetti hanging from his ears. I have no idea what the message is there. He literally put spaghetti on his ears and then watched Putin's speech and posted the picture. He's a Russian local politician in the regional parliament, and they're not happy. So they're going at, but literally they're filing charges against this guy for discrediting the armed forces. I'm pretty sure those are the charges where they can get you for 15 years potentially. I mean, the point is, like, seriously, you put spaghetti in your ears and did a picture watching Putin, and they're going to possibly throw you in jail for maybe up to 15 years. What, like, these people, this is what I'm telling you. It's the spaghetti monster. Exactly. There is something seriously wrong with that country. And this is why I just sort of keep reminding you, Russia is a dictatorship. It is not, we all have problems. All of our countries have problems. Democracies aren't perfect, but that's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It is a great meme though. It's a great meme, right? Spaghetti ears. All right, let's go to the questions. This was good. I did half an hour today on the news. Lately, the news has been going later. On TikTok, you can submit the questions via the Q&A link in my profile. On YouTube, obviously use the boxes at the bottom of the screen. Let me find my glasses and look at some of the YouTube questions first. Oh, that's interesting. Elise is saying she saw a video by a Russian speaker who said that's a colloquial phrase for being BS'd, meaning Rachel is saying, don't put spaghetti on my ears in Russian appears to mean don't lie to me. Oh, that's it. I mean, does anybody speak Russian who knows this for a fact? Okay, somebody's saying in Poland too. In Poland, we have a saying to roll pasta on the ears, meaning that the person is speaking lies. Oh, ouch. Oh, that's very interesting. Oh, that's really interesting. Wow. Lilia is saying there's a saying that you need to put butter on your ears so the spaghetti slides right off. Spaghetti means lies. So he accused Putin of lying. Whoa, thank you, Lilia, for that, by the way. Oh, wow. I mean, mind you, in Ukraine too, mind you, I mean, the guy is like in danger of going to jail because he put spaghetti on his ears and even because he called Putin a liar. This place is a dictatorship. No, they're going to throw him to jail for 5 years probably. I mean, it's really sad. It's just really sad. I just wish something would happen to change that country. Tiffany, I didn't remember you spoke Russian. Sorry, my friend Tiffany, who went with Marion and me to Russia. Oh, so many years ago, 1993, I want to say. She was just about to let us know it's a common Russian saying. Oh, okay. There you go. Spaghetti on the ears. Funny. Thank you, that Ruben and Benji for the gifts there. Okay, I did not see what came of this. So Nathan R is saying, did you see that the Saudis are siding with? Are siding with Ukraine in terms of giving energy supplies, etc. Yet they're still participating in the Russia pact thing. Totally did not know that, Tiffany. Very cool. I did not see that they were doing anything about helping the Ukrainians. That's interesting. I mean, that's good. At least they're doing something. I mean, I assumed if the Saudi foreign minister went to Ukraine, which he did recently, there was hopefully some positive reason he was doing that. Thank you, Pauline, for the hearts. But that's interesting. Okay, interesting. Let me pull up a TikTok question now. Remember TikTok? You guys could submit them. I'm going to yawn at you. You can submit them via the Q&A. There we go. Well, I mean, I don't know. Nick 2008 is asking, why don't we give Ukraine our old Cold War stuff like F-4 Phantoms? He's talking about planes. As I said yesterday, I don't think Biden wants to give any planes. Thank you, Marcy, for the pause. I don't think Biden wants to give Ukraine any planes. I think he's freaked out. Possibly the Russians said something privately to Biden and said, if you give airplanes, that's it. That's a red line. We're going to do, you're going to regret it, blah, blah, blah. That's my guess. Thank you, Jamie or Jaime, depending on your name. Ooh, and Luis. But so Biden doesn't want to give any planes at all. Otherwise, we'd be giving MiG fighter jets. The Poles offered MiG fighter jets a year ago, right? And nobody wanted to give them. So all this discussion about F-16s, I think, is a red herring. The problem isn't F-16s. The problem is any kind of planes whatsoever. We don't want to give them planes because we're afraid of pissing off Putin. And at some point, we really need to get over being afraid of pissing off Putin because we're not going to win this war. And Ukraine's not going to win this war if we keep slowly giving Ukraine better stuff very slowly. Then it's and again, maybe we don't want them to win. I'm telling you, I really think Biden wants a tie. I really do. Thank you, Cheryl Moore and Paul LWC and Dunka. Oh, is it Dunka Shane? I'm going to guess. That's very funny. Hold on. I didn't see the whole name on the bottom. I'm going to guess it's Donka Shane. That's very funny. That's cute. His name is Shane, and his screen name is Donka Shane. I love that. That's very funny. Interesting. Alec is saying on the Russian, thank you, Lestak, on Russian propaganda TV, he saw a clip of them, or he, I believe, saw a clip of them talking about that they could lose the war. Do you think this is just an attempt to make Russians scared? I'd have to see how they're saying it. To know what they're actually kind of doing. I mean, I'm making everybody yawn now. Sorry. Oh, I took an allergy pill before the show, and now I'm like yawny in the middle of it. I mean, if you wanted, thank you, Jetta Mom. If you wanted to get Russians ready for a bigger mobilization, for a nationwide war economy, right? And, declaring war and a national draft and all this kind of stuff, telling them we're winning probably isn't sufficient. You probably have to tell them, we could lose this, right? I mean, if we're winning, we don't need a draft. If we're winning, we don't need a war economy. So they may be letting this slip out. Not that we're losing, but that things are, oh my God, that things are difficult. And therefore we might need to do something to save ourselves, right? That's my thought. That's my thought as to why they'd be doing it then. More glasses. Pull up another TikTok question. Thank you. Is that Verna? Thank you there. Same thing. Same question. Oh, Nick is asking a follow-up question, and it's the same answer. Why don't the US and Western countries give Ukraine the old Cold War tanks if we don't want them to have the really modern stuff? Same reason. I think we just I don't know what the hell's going on. Well, actually, the tanks could be a different question. I mean, the tanks, for example, may not be in adequate shape, right? They need to be repaired and everything else. Do we have enough ammunition for old tanks? Is it the same ammunition we'd be using for the German tanks, for example? Are there enough spare parts to fix the tanks? So there's a lot of that stuff that would be a problem, I think, probably with the older tanks. I mean, we know, for example, that the Leopard tanks the German-made Leopard tanks are so ubiquitous in Europe. They're used by so many, I don't know if it's 13, 14 countries, whatever, that there's an ample supply of them. There's an ample supply of spare parts. There's ample supply of people who can train in principle, that the idea was that therefore that would be the tank to use. Now, mind you, we still seem to be seeing a lot of BS from the other European countries. Now that Germany said, yes, you can send your tanks to Ukraine, they're not sending their tanks to Ukraine. So let's see, Paul Gray, thank you for the super sticker. I did see that. W.C. Fields is talking about the Russian women traveling to Buenos Aires to give birth in order to gain Argentine citizenship, around 10,000 of them. I saw that. I mean, we have that here in the States too, the birthright citizenship. I don't like it. I really don't. I think, let me put it this way. If you're born here, okay. If you're born here because you basically gamed the system, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. You don't come to the US because quite literally you want to give your kid American citizenship. I don't like it. I don't like it anyway. So same thing with Argentina. Yes, next time I'm not taking the allergy pill right before the show. I mean, it's like I feel fine, but it has me like, woo! Not woozy, just not like woo, just more like I could yawn and just sit back at this point. Oh my. I need to have a little, I did have a little tea. I should have had a little more tea ready. Yep, I saw this Wagner group is recruiting high schoolers or at least younger kids. This is true. Oh geez, you people in your map. We don't have a reason to show the map. I try not to just show the map like when there's nothing to show. Okay, map. They want to see the map. There's the map. There ain't nothing to show on the map today. Well, I showed you Bakhmut earlier, but there's no other news happening on the map. Now you have the map. All right. The map is more popular than my dog sometimes, I think. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Big Gator Girl. I hope I get some kind of praise for showing the map. Thank you. What else we got here? 30 tanks isn't much. Thank you, El. Somebody's talking about Ukraine getting 30 tanks. What will that do? Not a lot. Thank you, Handheart. I mean, the estimates I was seeing, the dog, I'm not sure where the dog is right now. She was sleeping under the table before. She may have gone into my bedroom. The estimates I was seeing from the military experts, they were saying In a perfect world, Ukraine needs like 300 to 500 tanks from us, from the West, to help them, to really make a difference. Some people were saying, 150 wouldn't be bad. I saw one estimate that 50 wouldn't hurt, but honestly, I think from at least from the stuff I was reading, a lot of different of the experts, my guess is they seem to be thinking at least a couple hundred. That Ukraine needs at least a couple hundred to make a difference. Now, mind you, they're also getting the Bradley fighting vehicles that are also very good. So they're getting other stuff. Part of this is going to be how many they get, and part of it's going to be when they get them, because they need to get a lot of this stuff in time for the spring offensive. I mean, it would certainly help. What else we got? I feel like it's a slower day today. I don't know. I mean, I know I'm yawning, but I feel like you guys are a little more laid back today too. Beep, 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 beep. Oh, of course, I'm yawning at you, which probably isn't really helping. Yeah, the Wagner people are reaching out to young kids now. That was their most recent. The mercenaries. That was their most recent thing they're doing. That was in all the news. A withdrawal from Ukraine. I mean, not from Ukraine, but there is increasing talk about the Ukrainians eventually withdrawing from Bakhmut, which I will show you the map for this. That's the town in the east where most of the fighting is happening right now. And honestly, it was to be expected. The Ukrainians have been fighting here because more Russians are dying than Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians just kept fighting and fighting and fighting in order to hurt as many Russian troops as they could and destroy as much. I'm missing the trolls and destroy sort of as much Russian equipment. Maybe that's it. Are the trolls like, is it like a high holiday in Russia today or something? Are we not getting the trolls? I'm speaking too soon. I mean, we've got good turnout anyway. I'm glad we got 1,000 people, so it's good turnout anyway. But I'm surprised maybe it isn't the trolls. Yes, this was a couple days ago. The Russians were talking about nuking Yellowstone. Yellowstone Park is really cool in the western U.S. It includes, among other things, Old Faithful, which is, I don't know if it's like the most consistent geyser in the world. It might be, but every something like 70 to 90 minutes or something like that, it goes off. It's very cool. I went as a kid. It's very cool. And it literally is part of an underground volcano. It is a super volcano, but the volcano's underground, so you don't really think of it as a volcano, right? And some of the Russian commentators on TV were talking about how, we should nuke, Yellowstone. It's a super volcano and the volcano will explode and destroy America. Now, putting aside for a moment the fact that if the Russians nuke us, we'll nuke them, let's talk about the fact, and putting aside for a moment too, nuking a super volcano, does that really make it explode and destroy a country? I don't know. But if the super volcano explodes enough to destroy America, don't you think we're going to have some problems worldwide? I mean, to me, this is like dinosaur level extinction event, you freaking morons on Russian TV. Thank you, Dark Phoenix, right? I mean, am I wrong here? Right? Yellowstone's going to blow up, and it's going to blow up. A super volcano is going to erupt so much that it destroys all of America. But the rest of the world, it'll be totally fine. Yeah, it does. It's like a James Bond villain. No, they're bad at this. They're just, I don't know. I mean, if this stuff popped up on American TV, people would be like, don't bring that guest. Even Fox News would be like, don't bring that guest back. On Russian TV, it's like, ooh, yes, another way. And of course, the Russians, they're also going after the Brits again today. I forgot, you guys were sharing it on my Discord. What was the attack on the Brits? Something with oh, I know what it was. That whole crazy attack or whatever it was inside Russia, near Bryansk, or in the region of Bryansk, northeastern Ukraine. And these Russian troops that, kind of defected or whatever, crossed the border and attacked a local Russian town. They're Russian troops that attacked a Russian town. The leader of the Russian troops seems to be a neo-Nazi or something. The whole story is very weird. Thank you, Benner. one of the military experts I was reading today was saying that he did not think the Ukrainians were behind it because he basically said, look, if the Ukrainians were behind it, it would be much better organized. He said if the Russians were behind it, meaning a Russian false flag, so like the Russians set it up to attack their own town so they can go, oh, or something, right? Um, if the Russians did it, it would have been a much bigger attack. Like it wasn't a big enough attack. He thinks these guys are basically like free agents and a little bit kooky, and they just don't like the Russian government and they decided to just freelance. But it's a really weird story. But so today's news was some of the Russians on the crazy Russian TV people blaming the UK and saying the British were behind the attack from the Russian neo-Nazis attacking some village in Russia. I've said this before, somebody needs to write a book on this. The Russians hate you people. I have never the expression of what is it, living rent free in your mind. The British people live rent free in the head of every Russian, and they hate you people. And it's just the funniest damn thing. It really cracks me up. They're jealous of your tea. No, it really is. They just it drives them crazy. I mean, I'm guessing in some way maybe they feel a competition. I don't know what competition they feel with you because I don't know. I mean, you both had big empires. I don't know. I mean, but it's yeah, very weird. The whole thing feels, Copies is saying it feels like it was a setup, by the Russians. They almost were trying to make them look like they were Ukrainian. The whole thing is weird. Yeah, the whole thing's weird. But yeah, they hate the Brits. It makes me laugh. What else we got? What else we got here? The longer the war goes on this is from TikTok, would be an advantage for China. Pretty much true, as everybody is looking at Ukraine and Russia war and not looking at China and what they're doing. I think that's true. I think it's true. China is a partner or an ally of Russia, so they don't want Russia to lose, but China is more than happy for America and Europe to become weaker and weaker in the sense that we're losing money, we're losing weapons, and if China decides to invade Taiwan in a couple of years, China would like nothing better than America's weapons stores to be from here to here because of Ukraine, right? Because then we have less to use. Thank you, Iggy Woman, for the hands there. So I think that's absolutely true. Aqualimus. We've been hearing about Ukraine potentially withdrawing from Bakhmut for a few weeks now. Yep. And just more today. Exactly. More today of it. Is there a chance it's just a ruse to lure more Russians into the slaughterhouse? Yes. Yes. I don't know that we're ever going to know when the war is over. I don't know that we're ever going to find out what was the truth and what were basically ruses, tricks to try to con the Russians, because that's a really good point. Possibly the Ukrainians are losing Bakhmut, but we know that Ukraine has been happy to use Bakhmut, this town in the east, as basically a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a chainsaw, right? Like a wood chip cutter for the Russians, basically. Thank you, Killer's Geek. Or basically, the Russians are losing more men than the Ukrainians in this town. So the Ukrainians are like, you know what? Keep fighting them. Let's just keep fighting them because more Russians are dying than Ukrainians. It's just it's a meat grinder. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. The meat grinder. That it's just, why not? Even though the town doesn't matter that much to the Ukrainians, if more Russians are dying than Ukrainians, let's keep doing it, right? So from a Ukrainian perspective, you start either Ukraine isn't doing very well and they may have to withdraw soon. Okay, that's possible. Thank you, Addie, for the little teddy bear. Or the Ukrainians are doing better than they're saying. And they're putting out this message of, like today I told you in the news, withdrawal is on the table. It's a possibility, but only until it's absolutely necessary. They're trying to make it sound like, oh my God, I don't know how much longer we can do this, so that the Russians go nuts and put, twice as many men in. But they could be putting twice as many men that are running into a buzzsaw. One hopes that's the case. Knowing the Ukrainians, could be. I didn't think of it originally, but this is the kind of stuff the Ukrainians do. They're very sneaky people. I mean, so much of what we're hearing about the Ukrainians, they're just, viciously sneaky people. Thank you, Nidges from Lithuania. Um, it, you know, well, CMC Griff, you can ask your question here. If some people, for some reason, uh, aren't allowed to ask questions, TikTok like screws it up. I don't know why. But if you try to throw one right now, I will try to see it and answer it. I'm going to keep watching. You better do it now, though. What else we got here? Thank you for the gift there from Sheena. What else we got? The Brits trained them, I know. Oh, if you think China will give weapons to Russia, so he was just asking if China is going to give lethal weapons to Russia. I have no idea. I think the U.S. has handled this well. Biden, just like Biden did going into the war, Biden has decided that he was going to release intelligence. Remember, right before the war started, Biden was just releasing all the intelligence of what the Russians were planning. They were going to come in. They were planning certain false flag operations. In other words, they were going to do things that they were going to blame on the Ukrainians. And Biden went public with all of it to basically screw up the Russians' plans, because a lot of the Russians' plans depended on secrecy. So what I'm trying to remember what we were saying. Oh, the China stuff. So the same thing Biden did with China. We have intelligence, he says, that shows that the Chinese are actively considering giving Russia lethal weapons, but they haven't decided yet. So in addition to telling them privately, we went public. And we went public and said, we've got the intelligence. It's true. This is what China's doing, in order to embarrass China publicly with the world. Because part of the problem is, once China does it, you can embarrass them, but they're already doing it. So then it's harder for them to stop. If they haven't done it yet, you can potentially embarrass them not to do it. So I think it's been very smart the way Biden has handled it. Colonel Layton, who's a defense expert I respect, last weekend said he thought, I think it was on Sunday, that he thought China was going to do it anyway. A number of the other defense experts I'm seeing are saying they think this may have convinced China not to do it. We know China worries about their economy. The European Union came out today, one of their reps, and said that, yes, they will put sanctions on China if China does this. China has to worry about their own economy going forward. I mean, I've said this before too, and you can look into this to get more information, but China has two big problems right now. Their economy has slowed down significantly. China's economy for the last 50, 60 years or so has grown at a rate of something like 8% a year. That's a crazy rate. If you ever look at the US economy, for example, when we grow 3%, that's really good. When we grow 4%, it's getting a little crazy. Like a little, for example, coming out of COVID or coming out of the 2009 crisis, right? 4% growth is a little crazy, but it's okay temporarily. But more than that, we have crazy inflation and all sorts of problems. China, on the other hand, typically had 8%, if you believe their numbers, because we couldn't get accurate information because it's a communist country and it's very closed. But if you believe their numbers, it was 8%. Well, now that number's come down to 3% after like 50 or 60 years. That's a hell of a cut. China is still not a developed country. They need that higher growth in order to keep building their country and hopefully someday for them become a developed country. So that's their first concern, is their economy is slowing down and they need the economy to be going faster so they can feed their people and build the country. The second problem is their population is shrinking. For the first time, again, in like 50 or 60 years, the Chinese population shrank last year, and I believe the number was by 850,000 people. That's not a lot of people in a country of 1.4 billion, but it's the first time that the population has shrunk. And they're kind of freaked out, first time in 50 years. And they're really freaked out about that, because when your population's getting smaller, these are people who you're losing potentially people for your workforce, right? People who could be adding to your economy. So China's worried about that. Therefore, sanctions on China is something China would consider very serious and hopefully is thinking about very seriously. But who knows? I mean, because China's been pissed at us because we blew up their balloon and all of that. Would they try to do it anyway just to piss us off? I don't know. You think China would put the U.S. and the Western market in danger? That's the thing, is I just feel like it would be really stupid of them to do that in terms of their long-term development, because also keep this in mind too. Donald Trump kind of liked China because Donald Trump, A, likes dictators, and B, is always looking for another business deal, right? For his own business. Even Trump was forced to put tariffs and things on China, right? The other Republicans hate China. I mean, the Republicans hate the one thing Republicans have stayed consistent on. They haven't stayed consistent on a lot of their policies. They're not really good on defense anymore. They're not good at uh, uh, I mean this. I think they're not the Republicans in charge. They're not that good at defending America anymore. They defend our enemies. I really think so. Which is part of the reason they're so bad on Ukraine. But when it comes to China, oh boy, they hate China. Communist China. I always say this: the Chinese Communist Party. They call China. They don't call China China. They will always say the Chinese Communist Party sent a balloon over America. They hate China. So if you're China right now, certainly waiting 2 years for another presidency, for example, things could get a hell of a lot worse if a Republican wins the presidency. And if China starts jerking around and helping Russia in this war, the other possibility, and this I mentioned this before, the other possibility is if China starts giving Russia lethal weapons, this starts to become China's war. Now you got Republicans who are a little more open about defending Putin and hating Ukraine. Republicans are going to be a lot less likely to basically side with Putin if they're also siding with China, because this starts to become China's war. You know what I mean? It just gets a lot more uncomfortable for Republicans to cut off aid if they know they're helping China. So if I were advising China, I'd be like, dude, this war ain't helping you right now. It really isn't. So, you know, who knows? Few more questions. Actually, I have a funny China story. I used to work in the U.S. Senate 35 years ago, and my boss was Senator Stevens from Alaska, and we were meeting once with, some Chinese official. Could have been the Chinese ambassador, could have even been the Chinese foreign minister. I don't remember anymore. At least the Chinese ambassador. I don't remember. And they're sitting there meeting with Stevens, and Stevens said that he had met with I believe Deng Xiaoping. Thank you, Daryl, for that. That's very generous of you. Thank you. One of the big Chinese leaders at the time. And he said, several years ago, I met with Deng Xiaoping, and Stevens, Deng Xiaoping asked him, what's the population of Alaska? And at the time, the population of Alaska was like 500,000 or something. Stevens said 500,000. And I think maybe he asked Stevens what Stevens thought his population was, and he guessed and got close, but wrong. And so Stevens says, yeah, so what's the population of your country, Mr. Premier, or whatever? And at the time, Deng Xiaoping told him, I believe this was I know the swing, but I believe the number was, thank you, Truthful, for the hat. The number was somewhere between 1 billion and 1,250,000. Excuse me, 1,250,000,000. So somewhere between 1 billion and 1,250,000,000. He said, we don't know exactly. And Steven says, he goes, I turned to the Chinese premier and I said, Mr. Premier, do you understand that your rounding error is the size of our country, 250 million people? And he turns over and he says, yes, I do, Senator. Do you? Which I thought was such a ooh. But it was such a great story, amazing story. But I love that. The rounding error, the Chinese rounding error is the size of our population. Because I saw somebody say that the Chinese got some number off by 100 million or whatever, their population. But it was like, woo. All right, let me look for another question or two, and then I think we'll call it quits here. Burp. What we got here? Yeah, Elon Musk going to Mexico. Good for him. It's a great story, though. I had exactly the irony, but it was also very poignant. I liked the whole aspect of the story in general. What else we got here? Japan, not sure what Japan's been good, though. I don't know what Japan's actually doing and whether they're doing stuff behind the scenes, but they've been good. South Korea, less good. We're trying to get South Korea to pony up more artillery, and they're being very difficult, and I'm not sure why. And actually, South Korea, we kind of are saving their asses. That kind of stuff pisses me off. When there's certain countries where basically we've laid our lives down for them. Thank you, Jazz Diamond and Bonnie. They should be more, and frankly, Israel's another example. When literally we have said we will go to war for you, and we pretty much put down our nuclear umbrella for you, I think they should be a little more forthcoming. And Israel's one of them. South Korea is one of them too. Thank you, Dadike. Always love the flower overflow. Fitness for health. Yeah, nobody pushes for nuclear war. You do. Your people do. The Russians do all the time, but the rest of us are pushing for freedom. Join us. Genocide bad. So, thank you, Sister Vera, for the Ferris wheel. Very nice of you. I can tell that's a nice one. Thank you. Moldova. No news about Moldova. Absolutely nothing going on there. Yeah, at the moment. What else we got here? Oh, that's interesting. Nathan saying both the Chinese and the Russians have been denied planning for new embassies here in London. So should be interesting to see what they do as Ukraine's was approved. Ha! That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I talked about Biden. Biden has skin cancer, but apparently it is very mild. It's a very, nice cancer. It's the most common people have that have skin cancer. And the reports are it's rarely fatal. And the reports are that he has nothing to do. They took it off, it's done, and there's no follow-on treatment necessary, which is good. So I think they pretty much just did the removing it, and maybe you remove some of the skin around it, but that was it. And they don't need any more. So that's good about that, at least. Yeah, it was one of the treatable ones, because skin cancer is funny that way, because skin cancer can be, oh yeah, it's nothing, get rid of it, or skin cancer can be you're dead. I mean, it's a really scary cancer that way. I've never had it, but I know of it. It's really weird that it can go both ways, where literally you've got a little thing and you're dead, or it's a little thing. And I've had several friends that have had it, and either it was benign or it was malignant, but it doesn't really spread. It's just, fortunately, like all cancers, it depends, I forget, is melanoma? Melanoma is the bad one, right? Right? That's the one. Cures, you're getting a little out of my field here, Remy, saying, do we have cures to any forms of cancer? I mean, people are cured of their cancer depending on their cancer and the surgery and the treatment. If it doesn't come back for 10, 20 years, you're considered cured. They are discovering with melanoma that that's the one Jimmy Carter had. They're doing the artificial treatments, where they're using your own immune system and to attack it with cancer drugs or whatever the hell it is. And I believe some of that was cured. So yeah, I think it depends what you mean by cure, I guess is what I'm saying. You are considered cured after a set period of time that it doesn't come back, right? Like you're considered in remission, and then with certain cancers, you're considered cured, right? HPV vaccine doesn't cure cancer. HPV vaccine prevents cancer. Very important vaccine, by the way, but it prevents it. So, but yeah, the immunotherapy is what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Anyway, we got into a whole cancer discussion here because of Biden. I am not the expert on all cancers. I just, I like science, so I read stuff. But they're getting better. But it's too much. All right, let me do a quick summary of the. We got everybody talking about cancer. I mean, I don't mind you guys talking about it. Let me do a quick summary of the news stories we hit tonight, and then I'll probably get going. Just to remind you, we're doing the Coffee Talk tomorrow, the Coffee Talk on TikTok for the paid TikTok subscribers. That's 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. And I think when I go live, it even maybe gives you the option to subscribe then, because I've seen when I did that, we had a few new subscriptions, I think. So in any case, check it out. I'll go to Discord for a few minutes. Okay. I'm tired tonight, but we'll go to Discord for a few minutes afterwards as well. Discord.aravosis.com. And on Discord on Sunday, we're going to have our VIP chat, which is for people who subscribe at the $25 a month and up level. and we have our own chat in the VIP section. You'll see it 11 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday. And just to remind folks, the reason I do these things is because I'm doing this for free. I've been doing it full time since the war broke out, and basically decided I was going to try to do this for free. I was going to see if I could make a living by just covering Ukraine and, the whole time. And so far, knock on wood, I was at a deficit. The last month or two, I'm pretty sure I broke even. I think I broke even. It's sort of hard to quantify because every day is different with the gift you guys give me and everything else, but knock on wood. So please do keep the gifts coming. You guys have been helping, but that's why I'm doing these weekend chats for the people who are the subscribers on TikTok, because you guys paid to help me out. And then the Sunday one at 11 a.m. is the people who paid on Discord to help me out. But as I said, remember, the Discord is free in general. You can still go to the Discord and chat with everybody. It's just if you pay, it supports my work and it gives you a little access to some of the other auctions and things. All right, let me give you the summary now. We talked about Biden and the cancer. Fortunately, it looks like he's fine. British military expert Michael Clark on Twitter said that Russia has had 200,000 casualties, Ukraine 100,000. When we say, thank you, Hazel, for that. When we say casualties in this case, thank you, Dawn, we mean injured and dead. But he says that the Russians have way more injured than dead compared to the Ukrainians. Excuse me, the Russians have way more dead compared to the injured than the Ukrainians do. So in other words, more Russian troops are dying per injury than Ukrainian troops dying per injury. So it's worse for the Russians. The Russians blew up a key bridge going into Bakhmut, which makes it harder for the Ukrainians. Sky News defense expert Michael Clark does think that the Russian forces are doing better in Bakhmut. He still says the town is not significant strategically, and it simply won't matter beyond a symbolic victory. Chancellor Scholz of Germany is in Washington today, meeting with Biden. Biden announced a new aid package for Ukraine, mostly ammunition. Germany has asked Switzerland to sell it back some of the decommissioned Leopard tanks that the Germans sold the Swiss. The Germans want to get them back and possibly use them to help other countries that then would give their tanks to Ukraine. So basically make it easier for other countries to give their tanks to Ukraine, but it remains to be seen if Switzerland agrees to that. Ukraine is, thank you, Hazel, for the private jet. I appreciate that. Ukraine is set to receive ammunition, which it really needs, artillery ammunition from the European Union, hopefully in the next few weeks. Ukraine still says it needs 250,000 artillery shells a month, which is a lot more than anybody is currently able to get them. Nearly 10,000 Russian soldiers surrendered since the beginning of the war via Ukraine's I Want to Live hotline they set up for Russian soldiers to call and say, I want to live. How do I surrender? So that's kind of cool. The Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov was laughed at in New Delhi while giving a speech, I should say while talking on a stage, and asked about the war. And he said, the war in which we are trying to stop was launched against us using Ukraine. People found that very funny, which was good. And finally, a Russian man is facing possibly a number of years in prison for discrediting the Russian armed forces because he took a picture of himself with spaghetti hanging from his ears, watching Putin give a speech, and then posted it on social media. And what I didn't know, but a number of you informed me, in many Slavic countries, including Ukraine, but including Poland and Russia, some expression about spaghetti on your ears refers to the fact that the person you're talking to is lying. So that was a meme, in essence, suggesting that Putin's lying to them about the war, which is pretty, it's a dictatorship. Thank you, Spirit Seer. It's a dictatorship. That's some serious stuff. That takes some serious backbone to do. Glad the guy did it, but Jesus, Anyway, that is it for our show tonight. As I said, I'll go to the Discord for a little bit, not too long, but a little bit afterwards. And otherwise, I'll see some of you guys on TikTok tomorrow morning, the paid TikTokers, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, US. Thank you, Betty. Sunday, the paid Discord, 25 and up, including moderators. I can't get moderators into the TikTok, it's only if you pay. I have no way of doing it, but we do invite all the moderators as a gift, as a thank you, to join us on Sunday at 11 on the Discord. And otherwise, I will be back Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, US, and we will do what we always do, the latest talk of the show. But please do check out the Discord anyway. As I said, I've got all those cool auction items. The Berlin Wall piece that I chipped off myself in December of 1989. It was so cool. Ukrainian Azovstal bracelet from the Azovstal steel plant. Very cool. But no, the Berlin thing's my coolest. I've got some, I'll show you really quick. What the hell? I've got some other pieces that I'm not auctioning off because they've got really nice color. And I was like, there's no way. I'll show you the one I'll show you. Actually, thanks to you guys, I'd gone through these pieces for the first time in forever. This is one that I really like because the thing is with the Berlin Wall, it's made from cement. So literally when you were trying to chip away at the Berlin Wall, it was like trying to chip away at a cement sidewalk. There was no way to do it. And I went and, I mean, in retrospect, I should have gone to some store and bought a hammer and stuff. There was nothing there. So I was lucky in that there was a big piece of, I think I've got it on my phone to show you. There was a big piece of reinforcing bar, rebar as it's called. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up here in my Discord. Big piece of rebar. Oops, hang on. Because basically cement, which I did not know, I learned all about cement when I went to Berlin. Cement has lots of pieces of metal going through it, I guess, to make it stronger, like as a lattice. And because people had chipped away so much, one of the bars, like a 2-foot thing of the bar, was bent outside of the cement, but it was still in the cement. So nobody had taken it because how do you take it? Well, I saw this and went, oh my God, this is so freaking cool. So hang on, I'm going to show you. So this was me back December of 1989. So this was 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm at the wall and I decided I was going to take this piece and bend it back and forth and back and forth. I took enough science in school and thought if I bend it back and forth enough, will it be able to break by the heat? This thing got so hot at the base that it finally, whatever it is in physics, it finally got brittle and broke. Well, in the meantime, because it's sticking in the wall, as I'm moving it back and forth, little pieces of the cement are coming off, which is cool. Now, incredibly difficult to get a thick piece of the cement. I mean, it was not possible. Also difficult to actually get pieces that had color on it because, well, actually, you can see where I was. I was at the bottom. Look at where I was at the bottom, where there isn't a lot of color. The color's up top, but there's nowhere to chip where the color is. It's too hard to chip. So where I was at the bottom, there wasn't as much color. You can see there at the bottom, right? In any case, this piece is really neat because there was really cool green and purple that came off. And it's not easy to get pieces that have color, okay? The other really cool thing I just noticed on this one is on the back of it is the indentation from the rebar, from the bar, that how I broke it off. Check it out. That's because remember I told you I was using the rebar back and forth. That's how I pulled it off. So this piece is neat because it's actually broken from the piece. The other cool thing I will show you really quick, just because I was very excited. So for the first time ever, I've had these since December 3rd, 1989. Last night I was playing with them because I was trying to find one piece for you guys. And that's where I decided, like I said, this one is still a nice piece. It's not as nice as mine, but it's still a nice piece. And I got it at the same time. I noticed 2 of my pieces and I said, because I was breaking them off a wall, I wonder if any of them fit together. Last night, I figured for the first time in 34 years, I figured out 2 of my pieces fit together. Check this out. I want to be careful because I'm terrified of dropping these things. So I got these 2, I'll show you guys these 2 pieces, but I was putting them together last night on the table and they totally fit. They're one piece. I mean, they're absolutely, it's hard for you to tell here. They are absolutely one piece. Like on the table, they sit together on the table. I was so excited. Anyway, I do love this stuff. It makes me very excited. I just this stuff I mean I like history, but I like objects that have a life component to them. So like old rocks are cool. I will say meteorites are pretty cool to me, but stuff like this that's man-made and the history and is just, you know what I mean? It's just so cool to me. And I just got ridiculously lucky because the time I was there was literally the time when everybody was rushing at the walls and everything. I'm just pissed that I didn't think of doing something, basically finding some kind of a power tool and just cutting out something like this with color on it would have made me very happy. you know, that just what do you do? I mean, having said that, well, I'll show you guys again because some of you haven't seen it. Having said that, I do have the piece of reinforcing bar, and that is one of the more unique pieces of the Berlin Wall I've ever seen. One second. That's my favorite. So this I will show you. So, I mean, that's pretty. Now, that's pretty freaking cool. Okay. That's the part that was in the wall that I was basically going like this to break it off. But I mean, that's a pretty cool souvenir of the Berlin Wall, if I do say so. I still haven't figured out how to display it in my apartment because I'm like, what do you do? What do you do with it? You know, I mean, the thing is huge, but I mean, you could just to see what it is. It's rebar. It's the reinforcing bar. You can see it both ways. A little sharp at the end. I'm a little afraid of giving somebody East German tetanus. You know, I've got to do something with it because it's so cool. Framing, man, I guess I could frame it too, with the rocks, but I've got to find some interesting. I thought of hanging it, but I'm afraid it's going to kill someone. One second. Yeah, I mean, I currently have it leaning against a wall where nobody can see it, but I've got to find some kind of a cooler way, with a neon light. That's kind of interesting. Actually, neon wrapped around it would be kind of interesting as long as it doesn't ruin it. Yeah, like an art piece. That's kind of interesting. Upright with a small steel stand. I mean, somebody had said about even getting like one friend had said, thank you, Azamak, had said getting like basically concrete, like to put it in a concrete base. But that got me a little worried because I was like, I don't necessarily want to, thank you, Zoe. I don't want to like ruin it or something. Well, I was able to bring it on the flight because I was there as a U.S. representative on the arms control negotiations. We were flying with the U.S. military. So our flight was a US military flight. So I literally walked on the plane. I mean, everybody tried to get pieces of the wall that weekend, senators, staff. We were with a bunch of senators. I walked on the plane with that thing, and everybody just went, oh my God, because everyone knew it had to be, right? I was the hero. I was probably 25 at the time, 25 years old, but I was the hero of that flight. I had the coolest. So yeah, it was easy. Otherwise, getting it home would have been fun. I would have had to pay for it and who knows what. But when you fly military, it's much easier. But yeah, I want to find some. It deserves some kind of cool display because it's such a neat piece of history and it's such a unique example. You know what I mean? You just don't see those. People were all after the rocks, and again, the rocks were so hard that I got a couple of the rocks, but they were too hard to get. Um, It was a fascinating time. Shadow box display is possible. I mean, it's pretty big, you know. I mean, because it also, if you look at it, because it's bent, it could be this wide because of the way it warps. But it's kind of neat too because it like spirals around like a question mark. Um, no, somebody who's got some kind of an art sense. I think you're right though. Like somebody with an art sense, I almost do. My sister's good at this stuff too, actually, but uh, I almost do wonder like some kind of a string of lights, you know, some kind of a string of lights that it's plugged into the wall, it's above there, attached to the wall, and just has a small string of lights on it. Um, but thank you. I was 760 by, but thank you. It's true. I'm Greek. It helps. Um, but yeah, I've got to find a neat, make it into a lamp, a table lamp. I know my friends want me to make everything into table lamps. Um, but I just, because it's like I said, it's like leaning against a wall, and I, I can never see it either, which bums me out. You know. Now that's true to an East German artist doing installation. That's true. That's true. You know, I am Greek. Yes. Um, but yeah. Anyway, we've got to find some. My neighbor's really good at this stuff too. I'll have to ask her as well. My sister, like I said, my sister's very good at this. I don't even know if I've asked her directly, but we've got to do something interesting with it because it should be more upfront. I do like the idea of it being on the wall with some lighting. So again, lighting that doesn't damage it, that simply wraps around, you know? Again, it could look really tacky or it could look really cool. That's the thing. Right? We don't know. Um, put on a stand in front of the table. Well, I told you my one friend he said, you know, make a square thing of concrete and put it in there, you know? Well, that's a possibility too. I mean, Spire saying mounted as a trophy plaque. I mean, I've got I've got the photo of me. I've got the pieces. I've got that. So it certainly could go into some kind of votive box. Sometimes I feel like those votive boxes look a little you know. Um, but I mean, I'm keeping all of them together. I think I showed you guys the other cool thing I had, which was neat. I think did I put it away? I think I did put it away. Yeah, yeah, I put it away. I also when I opened the box last night or 2 nights ago to look for this stuff, I realized I had, and again at the time I just didn't throw it out because I didn't throw it out, but I realized last night that I had some of the paper in the box, basically because it was cement, it was dusty and stuff. I didn't want it all over my luggage. I didn't have plastic bags and stuff. So I wrapped them in paper because I didn't want them to crush each other. And I still have the newspaper that I wrapped them in, which is kind of cool because it's the International Herald Tribune, which I don't even think exists anymore. It was a combination of the Washington Post and the New York Times internationally. And of course, it has the date, December 2nd and 3rd, 1989. So it's neat because this piece of scrap paper that I used to wrap it is now, I think Antiques Roadshow. So like I look at it and go, oh, the Roadshow would love that. You know, so I would put the newspaper. Well, the point of this is the point of that isn't, it's the provenance. Exactly. It's the provenance. And I went actually for the auction itself. I wrote a whole thing. I went and I found the, I mean, I can show you guys quickly anyway. Well, I did a thing for the auction. I did a sheet for the auction that explains it with lots of different pictures. And then I did a much longer PDF file that explains much more of what we were doing, what the group was doing. And I found, for example, you know, the time in question, this was from the Congressional Record. It's during that period, that month in question, saying I did work for the Senate Arms Control Observer Group. Then I found in the Congressional Record the record of our trip. And it shows that we did a trip to Vienna, Austria, and Paris, France over that weekend. Now, Berlin was the other part, but at least I wanted to pull it all together so that at least there's enough provenance. I mean, for you guys bidding, but also it's something then in the end, someday you give it to your kids or whatever, you're able to give it to them and say, yeah, there's a whole package of stuff that suggests the guy isn't lying, you know. Because how do you prove it? I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. I can prove my metal piece because literally you see me breaking the metal piece out of the wall. That's easy. No, we're done with the news. We've been doing this for an hour and 25 minutes, Jarber. The news ended. We're just kind of hanging out talking a little bit right now. But I do have some other East German stuff. I had gotten they're kind of boxed away right now, but I just for fun, because when you're over there, you get stuff like in Germany and East Germany and Russia and stuff. And I don't remember now if the East German stuff I got in East Germany or if I got them in Russia. It was one or the other. But I got oh, you want to hold on a second? Let me look at my box. If it's obvious in my box, I'll show you. Hold on. Because East Germany fascinates me. All right. Oops. Is it taped shut? Oops. It may be taped. It's taped shut. But we'll untape it. Oh, there we go. There we go. Where is this? Oh, here we go. Here we go. I have a number of these. I don't quite know why I have 3 of these. I don't remember why. Oh my God. How many of these things do I have? I don't remember why I somehow got 4 East German hats. I don't remember getting 4 of these. This is funny. Yeah, this has got to be East German. 1963. Which is also funny because the hat's from I got this. I either got this in East Germany or I got it in Russia in 1993, and I don't remember which. But this was a hat. This was one style of hat that they would wear with the flaps down, right? You can see the wonderful little. Well, that's the German. That's sort of the German insignia. I should say the East German DDR on the front. But then, for whatever crazy reason, I got 3 of their other hats, and I don't know why I got 3 of these. I mean, I'm laughing now. These are these hats, right? They're these hats. Now I'm going to be in trouble for wearing like Nazi hats or something. The same thing with the insignia, the DDR. DDR is the way we GDR in English. You'd say GDR, but they called it DDR. So we all in the sort of national security field called it DDR as well. These hats are cool because it literally tells you inside that it's DDR, and I think it's the date too of when it's manufactured, which is kind of neat that it's literally stamped DDR, which is East Germany inside. Now, the cool one of these is, I'd love to find this guy. Hang on. This guy, same hat, right? Different guy. But this one, he had signed his name inside, and it's K. Rob. Oops. Kraab. You can see. And I'm dying to know, except there's probably no way of translating, of finding it down, who K. Rob was, Raab, right? I still don't know why I have 3 of these. I guess whoever I was trading with was like, you want 3? And I said, okay. But yet more things that, that I have sitting in a box. Well, the thing is, I will guarantee you these aren't worth that much money. I don't think they are. They're cool. They're very cool. But I don't think they're, oh, we just pissed off a Russian. We pissed off a Russian. Dude, do you have a life? He says to all of us gushing over how cool it is to have memorabilia from East Germany. Okay. Do you have a life? This was what I told you about the Russians, how they don't, they teach them English, but they don't quite understand how to use English. So the comments don't make sense. So like showing something like this is obviously cool. The response isn't, dude, don't you have a life? It just, this is the wrong moment to say that. You know what I mean? Oh, Rob is the last name. It's Raab. Oh, that's absolutely his last name. The first name is K with a period. Actually, it's not Rob. It's Roab. I now realize. I never noticed that. Roab. Anybody speak German? Is that a common German name? Rob? It's K period Roab. Felix, you still out there? Oh, you're still out there, Felix. So is Roab a common last name in Germany? Felix is in the middle of chatting with Roshin and others. I doubt it's Karen. I doubt it's Karen. It's like, but I've never heard of it as a name. Yeah, because it's at first I thought it was Rube, but it clearly. I'll show you. You're our resident German. It's. Can you? Oh, here we go. You see what I mean? It looks to be Roab. If you can see closely enough. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Very cool. Anyway, I love this stuff. Auctioning a hat. Huh. That we'll see. I don't know. Well, I mean, I do have 3 of them. I've got to think about that. Because part of it is, I don't have a ton of my one nephew is into this stuff. Nobody else in the family is into this stuff. So it's like, I keep sort of trying to find ways of what I'm going to do with this stuff someday. But I'm not quite ready to, I was going to say Rob, unless maybe he wrote Rob and the first A just didn't come off very well, that it looks like an O, maybe that's what it is then. Yeah. You're my family now. Anyway, it's very cool. Like I said, I've got a lot of crazy Russian stuff, of course, because Russia being Russia. I don't know that any of these actually fit me because the Russia was a freaking sale of stuff you could get from Soviet Union, that is. I mean, just out of control, the stuff you could get from them. They were willing to like sell you their mother for a pair of blue jeans. Levi's especially. Where was the? Oh yeah, I had. Oh God, I forgot about this. I used to know what these actually were. I've got multiple Russian, but I'm forgetting. This is a nautical one. Yeah, this is a nautical one because you can see the nautical themed hammer and sickle. Beep. Oops, sorry. Boom. And I used to know, I have to Google them again to see what they are. Oh, this one's kind of neat. No, wait a minute. They have numbers inside. Well, it's cool too because they've got like numbers inside and where they were made. Like this one says Moskva, but I can't, the other writing, I'd have to get a better look at what the writing, it's hard to read. This one is probably from Omsk because it says Omsk, but it's got the guy's signature in it, which is very cool, which I don't think I remembered before. Yeah, this is very cool, actually. I don't know if you guys can see well enough that up here is the guy's signature. Anybody? I'm going to have to like take a good picture for the Russian folks or the Ukrainians to read. But I never noticed that before, that the guy had signed it. So on the right-hand side, one side has the number and the other side has his name. That's pretty cool. Are these DDR? These are Soviet. Yeah, these are Soviet. No, these are definitely Soviet. And then the other, where was the other? Boop, boop, boop. Oh, then here's the other one. Yeah. I know, you'll play in a minute. Hey! Oh God, here's the other dog again. And just another one. But they're very cool. They're very cool. But yeah, I'd love to get that one translated. So I used to know what they were. Sasha, come here. We'll play in a minute. I used to know what they are, and I don't remember now. I'll have to go and Google again. Hey, no, in a minute. Just wait. And then we go out there, and the other dog won't be there anyway. I love this stuff. All right, I'm going to sign off. Exactly, dad voice activated because the dog is freaking out. I'm going to sign off. Lovely seeing you guys. We'll see you either on the weekend or on Monday, okay? Yeah, Sasha isn't just the star of the show. Sasha is the star of the household. All right, I'll see you guys. Thank you. All right, bye-bye.